Hi, Matt here again. So in my informative speech, I talked about the Ruger 1022, and I know in all your excitement, you all went out and bought one. And in your excitement, you probably also shot the rifle, and so now it needs to be cleaned. I'm going to show you how to do that. First, you're going to need a good cleaning surface with cardboard or layered newspaper to absorb the solvent and the oil if there's any kind of spills or mishaps. You're also going to need several items. One of those items is a Phillips screwdriver or a flathead screwdriver. That is to take apart the rifle. You're going to need a ramrod. You're going to need two attachments that go with that ramrod. One is like a bristled end that cleans the inside of the barrel. The other is a kind of a plunger rod which you will use to push through some cotton patches. And also an old toothbrush that you might have laying around comes very handy. You're also going to need gun solvent. Now on the gun solvent it has a warning. It says use in an area that is adequately ventilated to outside air. Avoid prolonged breathing of vapors. Now I'm going to do this indoors for the sake of the video, but you're going to want a very ventilated area when doing this, preferably outdoors. You're also going to need some gun oil, and you're going to need some cotton gun cleaning patches. First, we're going to disassemble the rifle. It's very simple. We need to take out one screw here, and there's a screw here holding this band. Once you get those screws out, you're going to have to move this safety button about half the way through for this rifle end to pop out. Otherwise, that safety button, if it's all the way on or all the way off, it's going to prevent that piece from coming out. Once you get this piece out, there's some pins here. You see these black dots? Those are pins, and we're going to have to push those out. Once you get those pins out, you can see the trigger assembly comes right out. And now we have to remove the action from the inside. To do that, it's a little bit tough because it's spring-loaded, so you have to hold this back while taking out the action. You can see that's what it looks like when it's out. Here's the action here. We're going to start with cleaning the barrel. And with cleaning the barrel, we're going to use the bristled brush, and we're going to attach it to the ramrod. We need a little gun solvent down inside the barrel. Use very little. And we need to ram this in 5 times, and then we're going to spray again inside the barrel. One more time. And we go in 5 more times. 2, 3, 4, and 5. The next thing we're going to clean is the inside of the gun chamber. The best way to do this is put a little solvent down inside, and then take your toothbrush and scrub around in there. What happens is when the gun fires, you get a lot of the gunpowder and just little pieces of lead in the barrel and in the gun chamber. And so every time after you shoot it, you want to clean it, because that's going to keep the rifle's metal from rusting and getting other deterioration going on. So it's always a good idea to clean after firing. Once you got that clean, then we're going to want to go on to the trigger and firing pin assembly. put a little gun solvent on that. You can even use these. You can even use these patches. They're little cotton squares or rectangles, and you can even kind of use those to move around that solvent. You don't want to spray any solvent inside the assembly itself. There's a lot of mechanics in there. You don't want to put gun oil in there. The reason for that is because you could cause some of these parts to slip, and if they slip, you're going to get a jam or a misfire or something like that. It's not good for the gun. So you just want to clean around the outside. Just keep the metal nice. If you can, get some parts in there with just the cotton patch, go ahead and do that. You can even take the firing pin out and kind of get that wiped, but don't spray any solvent inside and don't squirt any gun oil inside. Once you've got that nice and cleaned all the surfaces there, that's done. Next part we want is the action. This is the part that slides in the gun that ejects the round after it's fired. Same thing with that, little solvent on a piece of patch. Just wipe that down. No need to get that too much solvent on this part, just as long as you don't feel any gritty lead or other gunpowder. This is the action itself that you pull back. Just give that a little wipe down. These parts really aren't as important as the barrel where the bullet fires through. That's the more important part that we want to make sure is clean. Now we've pretty much cleaned everything we need to with the solvent, and now we're going to move on to the oil. Now the solvent pretty much removes any debris, gun powder or lead. The gun oil is what we want to apply to any parts of metal on the gun to prevent rusting or any other deterioration. So we're going to first apply that into the barrel, and how we're going to do that is we're going to remove this bristly end from the ramrod, and we're going to attach the plunger type connection. And then we're going to put the gun oil down the barrel. Okay, so once you've got some oil in the barrel, you're going to have to push through some cotton patches to take the oil residue out of the barrel. So we're going to start with a cotton patch, and we've got the plunger on the end of this ramrod, and it's got a little spike on the top so we can kind of hold that cotton patch on there. And we got to push this through, and we got to do this until the cotton patches, or one of the cotton patches, comes out dry. There you go. Just slide that through, and you can see that they come out quite dirty at first, but after about 3 or 4, you want it to come out looking about like that. It's not totally clean. We got some dirty spots around the edges, but that's pretty good. So we've got the barrel, inside of the barrel oiled, and now we just need to oil the rest of the gun. And again, this is where these little cotton patches come in real handy. Just put dab a little oil on the patch, and we're going to go all the way around all the gun parts. Once we've got all the metal parts covered in oil, it's time to reassemble. First thing we want to reassemble is the action. We're basically doing the opposite of disassembling the rifle. So go ahead and do that. I'm using this screwdriver to pull back the action because I got to pull back the action in order to insert this piece. There we go. It's in there, just like we wanted. When you put this piece in, you have to make sure this can go in with this actually stuck backwards. I've done it before. It makes it a bit confusing why the gun won't fire. But this firing pin has to be forward between that slot. I don't know if you can see that, but make sure that's forward when you're putting it back into the gun. We're lining up those holes where these pins go. We're just going to slide those back in. Again, we need to have this safety button about halfway to get that through. And then we just put this band back on, and we tighten this screw, and we're done. I thank you for joining me in this demonstrative speech. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to clean the Ruger 1022. You can see that it's easy to take apart the rifle, and it's easy to clean. So it makes it a good rifle to have around. It's easy to clean, and I thank you for joining me.